I hereby summon all my imps. Hey everybody, it's Annabelle. With the talk of nerfs coming out in the next couple of days, one of the nerfs that was being talked about was our good old boy Renathal, and I just wanted to do a quick one here about how I feel about Renathal. So, for all of you who don't know, this is our good boy, Renathal. He's the one who gives you a 40 card deck and 40 health to start out with. And I understand why people want him on the chopping block, because of the fact that I've had times where I will face up against somebody who has 40 health and they will get every single card that they need in their entire life down by turn 6, and I will have lost the game, and I will have drawn a million cards in my deck, and I still won't be able to find my card, and I'm playing a 30 card deck, and they're playing a 40 card deck. The problem with this card is there's really no good way to nerf this, because you could make this a 12 mana and people wouldn't care. You can make this a 1/1 at 3 mana and people wouldn't care. Nobody is playing this for the stat bombs. They're playing it for the stats. They're playing for it for the text right there. The fact that you can get a 40 card deck and you get 40 health. And part of the issue is that with as much draw as is in the game for a lot of classes, you could have a 50 card deck, you could have a 60 card deck, and still certain people would get it done on turn 4, turn 5, turn 6. And having that extra health would just help them out, you know. The fact is that so many things can draw like ridiculously well. So many things are playing aggressively, you know, and just banking on the fact that they can get their cards by turn, 6, 7. And I get it. I've had times where I've cursed and said, I don't want to play against a 40 player health deck again. And, it hurts, but that's something that has existed in Hearthstone before Renathal came along. When I was playing before Renathal, I had times where I would play against people who had 30 card decks, and they just, got your turn 1 on turn 1, your turn 2 on turn 2. How many times have I seen Duff on exactly turn 5, and then I'll sit there and go, okay, Duff must be the greatest card to play, and I'll play him in my deck, and he'll be card 24, in a 40 card deck, card 34 in a 40 card deck, just deep enough that you're not going to get it, but it's not deep enough that you can even get it with dredge. I mean, it feels bad when you play against it. I get it. The fact that I've had games where somebody will start out at 40 and I'll get them down to like 17, and then they'll just have that one extra turn that basically wipes me out. And I'm like, if they didn't have that 10 extra health to start with, I would have won. But, you can't really change this card, The only way you could change this card would be to lower the health and just start with a 40 card deck. And while you could do that as a nerf where only your deck size started at as 40 and your health just stayed at 30, if that happened, this card would basically be thrown to the side heap. And the thing about this card is this card has opened up so much change in the game. The fact that there are people who are playing this, that you're seeing, heavy priest and heavy warrior and heavy druid, both in standard and in wild. You used to never, if this card didn't exist and give you the 40 extra health, you would never play it. Nobody would play it. It's not a card that you can nerf. And the thing is that there's so many other cards you can look at. I mean, in Hunter, you can look at, here's one of the main Hunter decks, One of the biggest problems is Trogzor. The Trogzor is what's keeping aggro down with the spells. You know. Stuff like Beast Hunter Travis, stuff like, the Hydrodon, And Druid, this is the big scary Druid, and the problem is that there's, what are you gonna nerf? You're gonna nerf Peasant, What are you gonna nerf? You're gonna nerf, the Crooked Cook, so you can't get as much draw. The only one in here that you can even somewhat nerf is the Herald of Nature, and you could make that a 1/1 instead of a 1/2, and that's about the only thing that you can nerf in this. This deck alone, just creams. And this isn't playing Renathal. I'm sure some people out there play the Renathal. It's a Renathal version out there of that, but there's a Renathal version out for everything out, One of the biggest problems with Warlock is, the fact that you can get 1,000,000 imps on the board with Wicked Shipment and Fiendish Circle, Then you just finish it up with Bartender or Inking Grafon or even Siren Furious. You don't have to run a 40-card deck in order to make, scary stuff. And yeah, I get how it feels, and that it isn't half the decks that exist, but that's because if you want to play 40 cards at all, it has to exist in that deck. It's not like you can choose to play 40 cards and not have Prince Renathal in there. If they gave you an option where you could do 40 cards and not have Prince Renathal in there, and just start out with 40 health and 40 cards and not have Prince Renathal in there, people would do it. It's not the card itself. It's the health bonus. It's the card bonus. You're saying that, half of the decks have Prince Renathal in there, but that's because that creates a whole new archetype. Back in the day when Reno existed, half of the decks had Reno in them. When Zephyrs existed, half of the decks had Zephyrs in it. Zephyrs never had to be knocked off its pedestal while it was around. But every card that was playing, Singleton had to have a Zephyrs in it. Or, if you're playing Zephyrs, you're playing a Singleton deck. There are other cards that have existed in the past that have made archetypes. I just really, as much as I don't like, the Princey Boy, and I've had times where I'm like, I don't want to see one more 40 card deck again. It just makes an archetype. This card makes almost another Hearthstone exist, There's people who are playing the 30 and there's people who are playing the 40. And to nerf this card at this point would be so sad, as there's so many other cards you can nerf that are outliers. Just in this set alone, let me see if I can find some good outliers in here. Demon Hunter is not doing that great, but even in Demon Hunter, Demon Hunter just got some buffs, so in Druid, some of the cards that are nasty in Druid. This card's nasty in Druid, the Planted Evidence, the Natural Causes. This card needs to get nerfed to High Heaven. This card is just ridiculous, but that's not even being ran in a lot of the aggro stuff. In Hunter, the seeds need to be looked at one more time. The seeds just got, in Mage, we already have talked about the Night Cloak Sanctum and how this should be 2 and not 3. Durability. There's so many other cards, A Paladin's fine, Priest is fine, but even with Priest, there's stuff in here that kind of gets outrageous, Rogue, you're basically just looking at stuff like, Draka, There's other cards you can nerf, there's other things you can do, and it just would feel so bad to get rid of something that the reason that it doesn't work is because the decks that can abuse it are the decks that can draw ridiculously. So it's not the card itself, it's the fact that draw used to be a premium, and you had maybe 1-2 cards outside of an ability that draw, and now pretty much every class can draw. Anyways, thank you guys all so much for watching, and as always, remember, play for fun.